Hey everybody, this video I'm going to go over the homework problems from last night and kind of explain how to use empirical rule when solving these. And then after the video is over, I also have a quizzes posted with problems that are very similar. So all the problems will work out just like these two do. So let's start with 42. It tells me the distribution of weights of 9-ounce bags of a particular brand of potato chips is approximately normal. So I know the shape's going to be bell curved. I'm thinking about this right now as I read. With a mean of 9.12, so I'm also thinking that means 9.12 is going to be in the middle of the curve, and a standard deviation of 0.05. Draw an accurate sketch of the distribution of potato chip bag weights. Be sure to label the mean, as well as the points 1, 2, and 3 standard deviations away from the mean on the horizontal axis. So let me start with my normal curve. Here's my horizontal axis. I'm going to make a bell-shaped normal curve. And I'm going to label the mean in the middle. So that mean is 9.12. And I'm going to count out standard deviations 3 above and 3 below that mean. And I'm going to label those as well. So 1 standard deviation above. That takes me to 9.17. I'm just adding the 0.05. I'm adding this standard deviation. 2 standard deviations above the mean. I add another 0.05. And now I have 9.22. And then one more 3 standard deviations above the mean. I add another 0.05. And I have 9.27. I do the same thing going the other way. I'm going to subtract the standard deviation from the mean. So if I subtract 9.12 minus 0.05, go 1 standard deviation below, that's going to take me to 9.07. I subtract another standard deviation below the mean, so another 0.05, takes me to 9.02, and then one more will take me to 8.97. So there's my sketched curve, and then let's answer some other questions about this curve in question 44. So 44A says, what percent of bags weigh less than 9.02%? So in this curve, I'm just going to label a few things. So for part A, where my mean's in the middle, and 9.02 was 2 standard deviations below, so right here. So I want to know what's the area from here all the way to the end of the curve. Now, I don't have empirical rule for that, but I do know some things because of empirical rule. Because of empirical rule, I know that 95% is between here and here, right within 2 standard deviations. So I know this area is 95. I know the area of the whole curve altogether is 100%. So if I subtract 100 minus 95, I get 5% left over. That 5% is this and this tail. But I only want 1, so half of 5 takes me to 2.5%. So divide 5 by 2. And for part A, the percent of bags that weigh less is 2.5%. Let's go to B. B is pretty easy. It says between what weights do the middle 68% of the bags fall? I'm just going to go up to my first picture. This is classic empirical rule. So 68% empirical rule says falls within 1 standard deviation. So that means 68% of these bags are between 9.07 ounces and 9.17 ounces. So that was pretty easy. In C, what percent of 9-ounce bags of this brand weigh between 8.97 and 9.17? Let me resketch my curve here. I'm just relabeling my standard deviations. 9.07. So I'm going to highlight or shade in that area that it wants me to find. So between 8.97, that's right here, and 9.17, that's right here. So I want this area. And again, I'm going to think about, well, what areas do I know that are in that purple area? Well, I'm going to start off saying I know this middle section from here to here is 68%. So I just need to figure out, well, what does that mean this section is? Or how can I figure out that section? Well, if I use the same logic as I did in the previous one, or in part A, I can find what's on both sides and divide by 2. So I know 68% is in the middle. I know from 8.97, sorry, to 9.27 is 99.7%. So if I subtract this 68, that's going to leave me with this question mark and the same amount on the other side. So if I do 99.7 minus 68, a little more space, that's going to give me 31.7. But that's going to be this section. Let me pick a different color. Let me highlight, I guess. That's going to be this and this, and I only need one of those. I only need the one on the left. I'm going to cut that in half. So divide that by 2. And that's going to give me 15.85%, where this question mark is. So that means the total area is 68 plus that 15.85. So that total area of the purple is 83.85%. And then last one here, a bag that weighs 9.07 ounces is at what percentile? So remember, percentile represents the percentage below. So I really want to know, well, what percent is less than 9.07? I'm going to draw another curve, my last picture. And 9.12 is in the middle. So I really want this left tail, so from 1 standard deviation and less. So how do I find that percent? Well, again, think about what we do know. So what we do know here, based on 1 standard deviation, we know from here to here is 68%. And I also know, again, the whole curve is 100%. So if I do 100 minus 68, and then I'm going to divide that by 2, so I get 32 there. That's 32. Divide that by 2. That gives me 16. So 16% makes up for both of these tails. Oh, sorry, I don't even need that. I just need this tail. So I got my 16%. I'm not adding anything. So less than 9.07, this is the 16th percentile. One more thing I want to show you before I end the video. If this is a little bit overwhelming trying to work with the empirical rule percent and 100%, I mean, you could even really work with 50% would be half the curve. I found this picture, and I can post it in Classroom as an image. If you want to print it out, you can, or if you want to copy it in your notes, you can. But this picture breaks down empirical rule even further. So empirical rule tells us that this area is 68% within 1 standard deviation. Well, guess what? If you divide that in half, that means there's 34 in each half. And then it goes on, it breaks it down even further. So 95 is this percent between these dashed lines. But if I take out the 68 and divide by 2, here's that 13.5 that we calculated, and so on. It keeps breaking down into little sections. So let me draw a couple lines on here just to again show you empirical rule. So here again is that 68. 68% is within 1 standard deviation, but I could break that 68% in half. 95% is within 2 standard deviations. But again, if I break that down into smaller pieces, I get 13.5 and 13.5 in those little sections. But keep in mind, if I add these 4%, they're going to add to that 95%. And then last, if I do, let's see if I can go down here. If I do within 3 standard deviations, that's 97% according to empirical rule. Or sorry, not 97, 99.7%. And again, it's just breaking it down. So 2.35 plus 13.5 plus 34 plus 34 plus 13.5 plus 2.35. If you add those up, they all add to 99.7. And then what's left to get to 100 of these 2 little 0.15%. So again, I'll post this as an image file in Google Classroom. So if you want to copy it, print it, whatever, that might help you with the quizzes as well. All right, guys, good luck on the quizzes. I'll be around. Just email me with any questions.